He's doing it. You ready? Too many bodies. It is warm.
I'm fine.
Diana Wilson. Is that loud enough? Just let me know. I'm here to do the testing 1, 2, 3 thing if you need it.
Is the air conditioner on?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
AC on?
All right.
The air conditioner.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Mark Prater, does that sound right to you back there? A little bit louder. Want me to lean in a little bit more? All right. I'm gonna try not to look silly up here with the microphone.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the City Council of Chattahoochee Hills for November 9th, 2023 to order. Let the record reflect that all council members are present for tonight's meeting. I'd like to remind anyone who wants to make a public comment tonight to fill out one of the yellow comment cards. You'll see those on the table up front. We have a couple of public hearings and just our regular open comment section, so please make sure that you note on your comment card which thing that it is you want to talk about. Hand those to the city attorney sitting at the front table there after you fill them out. If you have a cell phone, please make sure that your ringer is turned off. I just did. And if you would please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item tonight is approval of the meeting agenda. Is there anything that we need to have added, removed, or changed that I know of? Everybody all right? If I get a motion in a second, please, to approve the meeting agenda.
Make a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Agenda stands adopted. Next up is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 3rd. Can I get a motion in a second, please, to approve those minutes?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes of October 3rd.
I'd second it.
We have a motion and a second. Anything that anybody need updated or changed in that? If not, all those in favor of adopting the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The minutes stand adopted. Next up, we have a couple of presentations. Kevin, is that you? Kevin, I have to stop doing that. Chief.
Is this on? Okay, there we go. First, if somebody dropped their keys to a
Me.
Toyota,
I did.
okay, well.
Gosh, I've been looking for those. I'd be spending the night here. I'd get a ride, I think.
Yeah, that was the first presentation. Now, moving on. Council, citizens, police officers are often recognized for running toward the sound of danger, lights, sirens, whatnot, when an emergency situation presents itself. Police officers run to help total strangers without regard to their own safety. What is sometimes overlooked is the nuance of certain emergency situations, the ones that do not present themselves as an emergency, but turn out to be a life and death situation. On October 20th of last year, at approximately 1 o'clock in the morning, Officer Frazier and Corporal Carter responded to an incident at the Copper Mill Park where there was an abandoned vehicle sitting in the open area of the park before you go in. When Officer Frazier arrived, he noticed a young man sitting in the vehicle by himself. Officer Frazier then called Corporal Carter to assist him as he noticed the guy sitting there with a gun in his lap, intent on taking his life. Officer Carter, excuse me, at the time he was officer, but Corporal Carter and Officer Frazier calmly spoke with this gentleman for over an hour, putting themselves in the line of fire until they were able to disarm this gentleman and talk to him. Because of their actions, this man is alive today. He has received the help that he needed to continue on with his life. And in fact, he came into the department about a month ago to thank both of them for saving his life that night. So for that, I would like to call up Officer Carter, excuse me, Corporal Carter and Officer Frazier. And I'd also like to call up Corporal Carter's brother and Lieutenant Blackman to pin a life-saving award for both of these officers. Go ahead and pin them. You have a vest on, you'll be all right.
Oh.
Get in there so it stays. There you go. And I'll show the awards. These are our life-saving awards for the Chattahoochee Hills Police Department. It says Chattahoochee Hills Police Department Lifesaver Award. So I present this. All right, now get back to work.
The pinning itself took a minute. I'm glad to know that their skill sets are elsewhere. Appreciate that so much. It's just, we have the best folks working in our public safety departments, and evidence is that comes up so regularly. Thank you, Kevin, for calling them out, recognizing that. Next up is public comment, which is a time for citizens to share information with the mayor and the city council to provide their input and opinions on any matter not scheduled for its own public hearing during tonight's meeting. Since we have several public hearings, please do, again, make sure that you're being called for the thing that you wanted to talk about. When your name is called, please come forward and speak into the microphone directly to the council, first stating your name and address for the record. You're allowed 3 minutes for your personal remarks. And I see that we have public comment, so fire away.
Mr. Mayor, first one is Debbie Kelso.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I just want to say thank you for continuing to serve the community like you do, all of you, and for serving us in the past as well. I have a couple things here. The first thing is I have a letter from Mr. and Mrs. Crisp. So I'm going to read that, and then I'll just make my comment and go from there. Dear Mayor and City Council, we're asking you to please defer the vote on the Merrill Park project rezoning application to allow the Chattahoochee Hills City Planning Commission to review its impact of the 2,000 residential units plus the commercial and office space. How would this affect Cochrane Mill Park? Don and Barbara Crisp. And then my comment would basically be just to ask for maybe, I'm known as the one that would prefer it just to stay the way it is. Dirt roads and all, even if they're hard to ride on, but I know that's not always realistic. But I do pray that we could be mindful of the development and put a moratorium on it so we could slow things down a little bit, defer the votes on some of these, and just really see the impact on Cochrane Mill Park. I live directly across the street from the Merrill project that is part of Palmetto. That doesn't excite me. But I'm also not the type of personality that believes that you just get, oh, well, whatever. That's not my style. So I'm going to fight till the end and pray for the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we continue on that, and I appreciate all comments coming in, but that really should have been for the public hearing. So if the next two want to talk about any of the rezonings, those will be called here a little bit later, and that's fine. I mean, it's just part of the record, but just want to let you know that comment really would have been more appropriate in the public hearing, but thank you for your comments. So the next one is Aaliyah Kelso.
Hello, I'm Aaliyah Kelso and I live on 7895 Old Rico Road. I am currently in the 8th grade. In my civics class, we just finished a unit on ancient Greece and its government. Ancient Greece was a direct democracy, which means that each voter came to vote on every decision, big or small. Luckily, we are an indirect democracy. We elect individuals to represent their constituents, regardless of their personal opinions. There are many things I love about Chattahoochee Hills, such as the deer, especially the baby deer. I also enjoy the serenity. I never hear sirens and I could ride my bike with my dad without a lot of traffic. With all of these large developments, I fear that our serenity and wildlife will be driven away. I say these things in hope that our city council, our elected representatives, keep this in mind and that you represent the majority's opinion, no matter where you stand. Thank you.
Next, Deneen Crawford.
Deneen Crawford, 5575 Copper Mill Road. First of all, I'd like to thank the police officers or Corporal Carter and Officer Frazier for their heroic measures on that night at the park. I'm a nurse. I understand. I feel like the mental disabled in our society really needs help and they're really not getting it. So I really need to thank them. I also would like to thank the citizens of Chattahoochee Hills for the voter turnout. I'm not 100%, but I think this might have been the largest voter turnout in the history of Chattahoochee Hills. That was a huge turnout for this election on Tuesday. And I really think that it's from all of our communication tools that are going out to our citizens to keep people open, communication and awareness of what's happening in and around our city. I'd also like to thank all the volunteers that helped with the election and also with the whole process of the election. We had a lot of citizens that volunteered to host events for the candidates, and that's not an easy undertaking. I also would like to ask Chief DeGoo if he ever got back with the City of South Fulton police chief about the 18-wheeler that's still parking in the right of way, and if you've got any news on that. So you can talk to me about that if you want to. And I also would like to know, my mom is sitting here with me today and she lives at 11475 Hutchinson Ferry Road. And she's kind of in a blind curve right at the bottom of Sardis Church Hill. And she would like to see if there's any way that we could put up a sign or talk about a sign for a blind driveway sign. We do have it set to where she's not pulling out right at a hill on one of her driveways, but there's cars that go very fast coming down Sardis Church Hill. So if we could just think about that, talk about that, discuss it, she would appreciate it. So thank you very much for your time and for all your service. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the last one, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, next up is staff reports, and we'll start with the financial update from the city manager.
Hey, good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and all the citizens. Appreciate the turnout again. It's a great turnout that we have. I think they're all here for the financial report, or they could be here for Council Member Lowe's birthday today. I'm not sure. Her
No.
and her sister's birthday's
Another year.
today too. Because she's got a twin sister. I always make a
That's
joke about that. And then, of course, Mayor's birthday was yesterday. So we got a lot of
Birthday week.
birthdays this week.
What?
I know they didn't want me to say that, but they do it to me. But anyway, you're looking at the new financial software report that we have. It's not as big as mine, so that's apology number one. I had to put it in Ledger because it was too small for me to read. And the other part is not necessarily apology, but it's more of a kind of an update. This report we're playing around with still, and you'll see there's a lot of information on it. And there's a lot more information that I don't prefer to have, but I didn't want to leave anything out because I wanted to at least give you guys an idea of what we can do, what we can show, what we can illustrate with the new finance software. You're not going to see last year's budget numbers, we don't have those in there yet. Because that's the comparison that I like to do and you probably like to see. So those aren't in there yet. So there's pages for revenues and pages for expenditures. So as opposed to going through all of where we are, I kind of basically want to more talk about the report, about the financial software that we have. And you'll see things that can be, this particular part is kind of confusing. Because like I highlighted, this didn't come this way. I highlighted areas like in green, in yellow, and in kind of a peachy pink color in the end. The one on the far right, that's our budget. That's what you budgeted for the year. All the revenues, all the expenditures are in the pink. And coming back, the year-to-date budget, you'll see that that year-to-date budget is actually what the software estimates on a monthly basis. So we're 33% through the budget year. So the software is saying, okay, you should have 33% of this spent or 33% of this revenue achieved. But it's not the case. So I don't want you to see this and get confused that, oh, okay, you're supposed to have $833 million or $833,000 in the budget for property taxes, but you don't. Year to date, you have 62,000. Why do you have 62,000? We haven't collected property taxes yet. So I don't want you to say, oh my gosh, looking at expenditures and revenues that, oh, you're way far behind or you're way ahead. So I'm going to continue to tweak this and kind of learning the software and seeing if I can find a better way to present it. But I wanted to at least share it with you tonight because there may be things about it that you like or that you don't like. So I know it's something that you're not used to seeing. It's something I'm not used to seeing, me kicking and screaming, even changing to a software, being a dinosaur with Excel. So this is harder for me probably than it is for you, but I want to make it to where the report is really easy to read and not something that's like you see it now. So I'm going to improve upon it. And anything you can do, the best thing about the software is you ask a question and we can go in there, we can generate reports.
One thing that I recommend to everybody, something that Robbie and I are doing too, is go in there and go through this with him at some point so that you're sure that you're understanding everything. And to his point, if there's feedback that you have then about things you want to see, or if there's too much detail on something or whatever, they can get this more customized for us.
That's a better
Very
word.
early days in this new system.
Yeah, so I'll custom, this is the first one we've done. The departments, same thing for them. When we give them monthly department reports, they can see what they've spent. But when you start looking at comparison, like percent used or percent left, it's going to be a little bit confusing because the software is going to generate information thinking that we're getting 1/12 of our revenue or spent they assume it's like every month you spend 1/12 of what you're supposed to spend. And that's not the case. And we don't get revenue until sometimes later in the year. So I know I didn't give you any data as far as where we're at. You could look to bottom line if you wanted to see like in revenues, and you could look all the way down and see in the general fund, and you'll see there's hotel, motel fund and T-SPOS fund. I run those reports as well. But you could look and see, okay, we've got in the budget, we budgeted 5 million, let's say for total budget, but we've got 417,000 that was in the budget, and we've year to date activity, which is not highlighted. We've got close to 1 million that we've generated in different revenues. But I'll continue to work on it. And as the mayor said, I like that word customize. I'll customize it any way you want.
Do you have any questions?
What did the election cost us this year?
It was a lot less than we predicted. Was it like 12? Well,
I think it was 97.
97. Okay, 9,700. There was gonna be more than that, but it's 9,700. So that was better than we anticipated.
Anything else? All right, thanks, Robbie.
You
Next
bet.
up is a report from the fire chief, Greg Brett.
Mayor, council, citizens. The report I thought would be a little more interesting and glamorized if I gave you a recounting of some of the things that we've been involved in over the past few years. So no, these images on the front of the report do not represent everything that's gone on within the month of October. Some do. But nevertheless, I guess I was compelled to take this approach when I didn't have an argument, but I had a good discussion with someone about our priorities, our department priorities. And I might even say I take a little bit of an offense at being questioned about that when long hours and lots of effort go into caring for everyone who comes to our city, lives in our city. Citizens are our #1 priority. And guests are too. Believe it or not, and I intended to have a number for you, but I don't. Many of our medical calls, especially on the roadways, are not for citizens. They're for people passing through our city. But at any rate, we deliver that those services according to the Hippocratic Oath, without regard, right? Just do no harm and do well for everyone. The growth in our city that we're experiencing, we know we have to make the best possible effort, or really spit shine our efforts right now with what we have. And so I've written on the back, the textual part, how proud I am, or trying to demonstrate that, here we are at a rapid growth time in the city. In the next few years, I'm certain it will continue in some shape or form. But the people that we have are some of the best people I've known to work for this department in the history of the department, of the city. The skills are top notch. The apparatus, the equipment that we have for that response, top notch. And when we are faced with incidents such as we were last night on a rescue on the river in the dark, or in the last few weeks with a lot of response for woods and grass fire, this drought is, I'm praying for rain, doing the rain dance every chance I can get for the next 24 hours and weekend. But it begins to wear on you, and you worry about what will occur. We have partners next door to us who need our assistance as well. And so we're responding with them just as much. And you're grateful to have such good people and such good tools to be able to carry out a good response. So I want to thank you for where we've come from. When I came into this department, we were utilizing equipment that was hand-me-down and many hours, many miles old from Fulton County, and we are in more ways than just equipment. We are a different department. And I want to thank you for that. I'm grateful to be the chief of this department for this city and these citizens. You have questions?
You and I were talking about this earlier. Just want to make a quick comment because there were some questions about some of the activity on the north side of town a couple of days ago when we had a unpermitted kind of controlled burn that kind of got uncontrolled that you guys had to help control. And at the same time, or right after that, the thing with the kayakers that had gotten lost that you guys had to go rescue. And that's why there were a lot of trucks up there at that moment. Again, you guys are out all the time, all over the place. A huge wreck on South Fulton Parkway a couple of days ago. There's just a lot of stuff. And that's to your point, mostly people coming through. It's not our folks, but thank you for all of that.
Thank you.
Next up is a police department report from Chief DeGoo.
Good evening again, council citizens. This time you have the police report in front of you.
Good.
The one thing that I wanted to point out is from last year to this year is we doubled our accidents doubled this time from this time last year to this year. And so far this month, I think we've already responded to 5 or 6 traffic accidents. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to do an internal traffic study, trying to kind of figure out, I understand some of them, quite a few of them are deer related because it's that time of year, but we're seeing a lot of traffic accidents that don't involve deer. So try and figure that out. On the second page with the criminal investigations division, you can see our CID division was extremely busy. They got 11 new cases come in, but they also closed 12 cases, still with 23 open cases. We did hire 2 officers. Officer Phillips was sworn in on Monday and is in his FTO phase. Officer Everson will be sworn in the first Monday in December. And then that will bring us back to full staff. And lastly, Corporal Carter, who you all just met, will be attending a RAD, which is a rape aggression defense instructor training, so that he can then do a women's self-defense training class. He's attending that in December 4th through the 6th. And then he'll put on the class probably the end of January, beginning of February. So I will put up a sign up sheet for the citizens. For liability reasons, 18 and up. You have to be 18 to attend it. I will look into doing maybe a teenager one, but for right now, liability reasons, you have to be 18. So. Any questions, comments? Okay.
I'm glad you're doing that training class. I know people have loved those in the past, so thank you for having that happen. Next up is a Public Works Department report from the Director, Daryl Wunlin. The highlight of our evening.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Let me get this thing right. Show you how it's done. Okay. Hello, Mayor and Council, and a beautiful, I mean, look. Look, man, y'all some pretty people, except a couple of y'all. I'm just teasing, y'all. All beautiful. I appreciate it. It's funny. I've been here working on 8 years, really close, and when I saw these people here, when I come in and see people I haven't seen for a while, it feels good. I hug your neck. They're just nice and give you compliments. When I first started here, we wouldn't get many compliments. It was a lot of. Ooh, it was tough back then, but it seems to be coming around pretty good for us. You know what I mean? Let me knock out mine, get out of y'all's hair. One thing I want to talk about is the sewer system that's going in the city right now. They got majority of it done. I've had a few phone calls about potential blasting on Atlanta Noonan Road. They're talking between 2 and 4 weeks. This will be happening. They're doing a lot of research. They're going to see if they have to or if they don't have to. And they're trying to do as minimum as possible. It's not like what you would think. The process nowadays compared to what it was 10 years ago is total different. They're going to reach out to the residents in the areas that if the potential is going to happen, they'll reach out to them and meet with them and discuss the situation, how it's going to handle. This is a Fulton County project. It's not ours, not the city's. We do monitor them, make sure they stay in compliance to what we recommend and what we need in our city. So they've worked very well with us so far. And that's a process. So next between 2 to 4 weeks, that's going to happen. And they're going to be done with Atlanta Noonan, that section, we hope. Moving on. You have a question for that one?
Daryl, have they told you the plans for how they're at the Good sign right now?
Mhm.
How are they going to actually cross Hutchinson Ferry? Have they given you a
They'll
clue?
bore under the road.
So they won't have to close the road?
That's already been done. If you notice when you turn on Atlanta and off Hutchinson going south,
Mhm.
you look on the right side, you see that black pipe coming out of the ground. That's already been installed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they've done their technology and the way they're doing things has sure enough saved a lot of headache. Road crossings. And also through their process, they fixed a lot of stuff in the right of ways that were damaged for years, that with some residents need new pipe or whatever, and whatever it didn't cost, they upgraded a lot of the stuff for the residents. So it was a benefit for all of us as they went through the city. Second thing, I want to talk about the new parking lot in Cocker Mill Park. I have a lot of people call and ask. I know the tower's been up a long time, but they were not done. Just because the tower was standing, they still had to run power to it, had running communication to it. So that took a long time. That is done. So we started working on a parking lot as weather permitted. As you know, we have other projects to go on and we do everything in-house. So we save a lot of money by doing it in-house. Hopefully by next weekend, it's going to be open. The gravel's there. We're just waiting on some rain. If we don't get rain, I'm going to get with my buddy Greg Bett with that fire truck. We're going to put some water on it. And that's all we're waiting on. That's all we're waiting on, to get some compaction on that road. Because if you put cars on there now, it's going to be spinning out and stuck, and it's going to waste our money. And that's not what we want. Next thing, our sidearm. It's time to start sidearming this time of the year. A lot of people say the unit grows up during the summertime, and we cut grass continuously. Tractors run all day long, every day. 5 days a week, so we can't sidearm. We don't have enough staff for that. So this time of the year, that's what we do. We go sidearm, cut everything far back where we can, and then we continue on in the summertime. That's what's going on now. Let's see. Also, we went to Robbie and I went to a UCC meeting, it's underground communication meeting with all the underground utilities, Greystone, AT&T, Atlanta Gas, all the representatives there. I got some good, it was a great meeting, got some contacts on some AT&T that we've never had before. You know, we've always had a problem. You can't reach AT&T. You can call Atlanta Gas, you can call Greystone, get something. I've always had that. We've never had an AT&T. Finally, we got somebody. In this meeting, I just found out they're gonna be paving Highway 70 south from the Parkway to Coweta County, which I know a lot of residents live out there, gonna be tickled to death. I don't have a timeline. They're saying soon, hopefully within the next 6 months. That's what they're saying. That is a project that they have on their books right now to be done. That's a lot from me. Usually I try not to do that much. Yes, ma'am.
Any news on the Garrett's Ferry Bridge?
No, ma'am. The same email that we've all
That's the
got is
last,
that,
they were waiting on a contract for
yes,
brush removal, right?
yeah, last email I saw, they was like, they're supposed to start in November. It's the last email I saw.
And then the other thing, we've noticed Comcast in the area do an assessment for fiber. Is it, do you know anything about that? Is it now that we've got Greystone doing it that they want in the game too, or?
No, I think a lot of that is upgrading some of their communications they already have in the city. They're upgrading. And a lot of the crews you see are they're working hand. There's 3 different contractors that you see in the city right now. 4, the utility, for the sewer. Then you have the 2 other contracts. You have some contractors digging and installing the pipe. Then you have other contractors coming out and applying the fiber. And then you got another crew coming and running the power. I mean, running it, hooking it to the power poles and hooking up to the transformers. So you got 4 different crews all working for the same goal. And some of them could be communicating with them, that upgrading some of their systems that Greystone's providing us.
So Comcast is not part of the Greystone project. And just to let you
That's
know,
right.
they're going down gravel roads where there is no fiber. So they may
Mhm.
have an interest in entering that game.
They may do. They may, because I know there's a lot of piggyback on what they're trying to do and working together with that company because they have some of the equipment and technology that the others do not.
Thank you.
I ran into some of the Greystone folks this morning, actually, at a meeting, and they confirmed that they've actually got the first customers live in Chattahoochee Hills. There are people that have that fiber and it's
That's right.
operating.
That's right.
They're working their way through town. It's coming. It's coming.
Thank you all very much.
It was like Christmas.
First
All
customer.
right, next up is a community development report from the director, Mike Morton.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You have the building permit activity in front of you. As always, in October, 6 new houses, 14 total permits versus a year ago, 7 new houses, 20 total permits. You can see down at the bottom, the totals are all down from a year ago. Inspections 172 versus 271, 100 less compared to a year ago. But we've been activity has been slower in general. That reflects that. The only other thing I've got is a planning commission meeting coming up a week from tonight, Thursday, November 16th at 6:30 p.m. For that agenda, we will have 3 public hearings, 2 on the 2 items that they actually had on their agenda last month. They deferred the proposed village and the proposed mixed-use hamlet. And then the third one is the new proposed mixed-use hamlet that we're having the first read on tonight. And then I've also got a couple preliminary plats that'll be on that agenda for planning commission review. Any questions?
Thanks. Don't go far. All right, we have 3 public hearings tonight, 3 items on for public hearings. We talked about this in our work session today to the point that some people brought up in their comments. We know that the Planning Commission put off their action and advice on these because they were waiting for or had just gotten some of the information that they needed, and in some cases were waiting for things. We absolutely want their input on these before we vote on them, so we will be deferring action on these 3 items. But we have public hearings scheduled, so we're going to go ahead and do the public hearings. We have some public hearing comments, and we'll also, get a brief description of the projects from the director to do that. Rick and Dana, just with respect to order of business, can I go ahead and do a call for a deferral on these so that we can get that out of the way and then we can do the rest of the process, or should I wait, do them one at a time, or?
Never know. Here's the one or not. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a vote now on that, on deferment, and then that way everybody knows for certain that no vote will happen this evening. Then we'll do the public hearing.
Okay, that sounds good to me. All right, can I get a first, our motion and a second, please, to defer items 23-044, 23-045, and 23-046, which are the rezoning request for the 526 acres village district on Cochrane Mill at South Fulton, and then also the rezoning of the Hamlet property on Cochrane Mill, and the special use permit for that hotel. So again, motion to defer those to the next meeting, 23-044, 045, and 046.
Make a motion that we defer those items as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? If not, all those in favor of deferring those, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, so those are deferred, and now we'll go ahead and do the public hearings. And I think it's probably best then if we do get just a quick description of them from you, Mike, we'll just take them in order and we'll do the public hearings in order as well. So first up is that village rezoning.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You're familiar with the project. This is a proposal by Harrison Merrill of WHM Chattahoochee Hills Investments LLC for rezoning of 526 acres from RL Rural to VL Village. The property is at the corner of Cochrane Mill Road and South Fulton Parkway. About a mile of frontage on both sides of each of those roads and some frontage on some of the other roads too. Went through this a little more detail earlier. There is an underpass under South Fulton Parkway on the property to potentially connect the southern part of the development with Cochrane Mill Park. Cochrane Mill Park borders directly to the north. Another project by the same developer, Merrill Park in Palmetto, is borders directly to the south. And to the east, we have a mixed-use hamlet, Bear Creek, that has been rezoned by the city. There have been 2 DRI reviews of that Palmetto project by the same developer, one of them within the last year. The plan shows 150-foot buffers around the entire periphery and along all of the road frontages, except for South Fulton Parkway, where it shows to require 300 feet. And so they are compliant with the buffer requirements. There's a first phase proposed with 41 residents, which is a mix of attached and detached homes and a collection of small commercial buildings situated around an outdoor gathering space. Overall, the project proposes 2,000 residential units, which means that they will have to engage with the TDR program. And the result will be additional protected land through that process. As we heard, the project has gone through the DRI process. On this one, we don't have the final report, the notice of decision from GRETA, Georgia Regional Transportation Authority. We do have ARC's final report. We have what I believe is the final draft from GRETA. Still needs one approval and a final signature on it. So we'll get that out to you as soon as that's available. There is a proposed regional trail that's been for years on the Regional Transportation Improvement Program. FS209 is the project, but it's a trail segment connecting Cochrane Mill Park down to Hutchinson Ferry Road, basically by way of Phillips Road, and that's been programmed for a long time. Federal money behind it requires some match, but that's been on the in the tip for a long time. The project, as I mentioned, would require TDRs. It will create a demand for the 2,000 residential units. Would provide over 250 acres as proposed of open space on site, and demand for 1,474 TDRs. Taken together, the effective preservation ratio for the project would be 86%, which is above the city's target of 70%. There is, because the Planning Commission deferred for another public hearing, there's a public hearing, as I already indicated, on this project on a week from tonight, November 16th at 6:30 p.m. with the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mike? If not, Rick, do you want to give us the public hearing requirements and we can go ahead and do that public hearing?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The mayor will allow each side equal opportunity to the floor and establish time limits for this public hearing. If you desire to speak in support of or in opposition to an item, you must fill out a public comment card and turn it into the city attorney. Those called to speak will be taken in the order the speaker cards were received by the city attorney. All speakers should identify themselves by name, address, and organization if applicable before beginning their presentation. In this case, each side will have 10 minutes to present their case. The applicant and all those speaking in support of the application will speak first. The applicant may choose to save some of the allotted time for rebuttal following the presentation by the opposition. Those opposing the issue shall speak next. If any time remains, the opposition will be allowed to rebut the final remarks made by the applicant. Following the presentations by the applicant, those speaking in support of the application and those opposing the application, the city staff will has already presented his position. City clerk will keep track of time, will inform you when your allotted time has expired. During the public hearing, members of the city council shall listen to the presentation made by all those who speak. No action on their part is in order until the mayor declares the public hearing complete. In addition, the applicant shall not submit new material to the city council during the meeting unless requested to do so by a council member. All material which the applicant wishes to be considered shall be submitted to the city planner prior to the meeting so that the material may be included in the normal distribution of packages to the council. And finally, in all rezoning matters, applicants and any persons who desire to speak during the public hearing who have contributed campaign contributions totaling $250 or more to any member of the mayor and council shall disclose such contributions prior to speaking during the public hearing. Failure to do so shall constitute a misdemeanor.
All right, let's go ahead and open the public hearing on 23-044.
All right, the first one who I have is Koki Ellerby.
Wait, yeah, do you want to?
I don't have whether there's four or, I guess I do. They're all opposed. So I have the applicant here.
Would you like to come up and say something first, or you want to defer that?
I'll speak just for a moment. First of all, thank you. The village, which is shown over here on my right, and I speak loudly enough so I can go over there and talk about it. But this is, can everybody hear me all right? You gotta use the mic. I gotta use the mic.
Because we got people on
Thank you. I
Zoom.
didn't know it was portable. Okay, there we go. Here is South Fulton Parkway to give everyone the proper perspective. Here's Cochrane Mill Road. Here's Cochrane Mill Park, which is on the northern border of the property. Cochrane Mill goes down, there's about a mile of frontage, maybe a shade more than a mile of frontage. The village portion of the project in terms of the mixed use development, that is commercial with the residential on top, is shown basically in this area, which is on the south portion of Cochrane Mill Road and South Fulton Parkway. The outer edges here are corporate campuses for international, national, regional headquarters. This project, to give everyone the appropriate perspective, is probably a 25 to 40-year project. This is not a 5-year project. It's not a 10-year project. It's not even a 15-year project, and probably not even a 20-year project. So it's a long-term project, which will add the commercial base to what you have already in the city of Chattahoochee Hills. The idea is to have a mixed-use project where you've got both residential and you've got office and you've got mixed use, which should include basically all of the kinds of services that you don't have currently in the city of Chattahoochee Hills, but the residents going to need, not only for this project, but also for all of you who live in the city of Chattahoochee Hills. There are no variances. Originally, we'd asked for a variance in here so we could join the village, so it's one village. We decided not to do that when we saw opposition to that. So as you see the green on this project, those are all buffers. Lots of buffers on the project, 150, 160 acres, which is 150 feet along Cochrane Mill. And as mentioned by Mike, it's 300 feet or more on South Fulton Parkway. I'm going to reserve the rest of my time so that I can respond to any questions. And so I invite any questions. Sounds like we've got several.
All right, next, these are folks who are in opposition. First, Koki Ellerby.
Mayor, council, it's been a while since I've been in front of you guys. I had to do a double take. Ricky looks like half of Ricky that I saw last time. You look great. Yes, I haven't met a lot of you. But thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name's Koki Ellerby, 7500 Old Rico Road. In full transparency, Mr. Merrill's project has a mixed-use trail drawn right on top of my property line. Thanks so much to everyone for all the hard work that you've done to make Chattahoochee Hill Country what it is today. It's awesome. Kelly and I spent our first anniversary at the inn at Serenbe in February of 2015. We lived in Atlanta and we craved peace and calm, and we found it here. So we got some land, we built a house on a gravel road, and it's really beautiful. It's a comprehensive plan that some of you have been working on for 20 plus years, or almost 20 years. I feel it's development genius, and it assures that our property, as well as the city, will remain beautiful. But the development plan for our very first village, which we're discussing tonight, is complex, as you know, and it needs more time for review. I've spoken personally to many, many residents, and they all agree. Please take your time. This is a long game, and the impact that this has will last forever, literally. Please stick to your guns and hold the line on all of the conditions that you need to accept this proposal. Please look harder and consider other conditions, some which require jurisdiction over and cooperation with Palmetto zoning. One example is Cochrane Mill Road, our scenic byway, where parts run in and out of Chattahoochee Hills, where parts run in and out of Palmetto. Your decisions are our decisions. Please make them wisely. Thank you so much for taking the Planning Commission's recommendation to defer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Kelly Ellerby.
Kelly Ellerby, 7500 Old Rico Road. So my reading of the UDC is it requires analysis of a number of things, including, quote, whether the zoning proposal will adversely affect nearby properties. In Mr. Morton's November 9th letter, the staff concludes that the proposal should not adversely affect the use of adjacent properties, but it fails to even mention nearby properties. And it fails to include any analysis to reach its conclusion of no adverse effect to adjacent properties. My property is a nearby property and shares a border with the Palmetto piece of this project. There is no real buffer between my property and the proposed trail that is literally drawn on top of my property line in the Palmetto plans. This same issue faces over 40 Chat Hills residents by our calculation, and worse. Ours isn't the worst situation. These are injuries to our properties. This proposal is a 1,900 acre project in 2 cities, but it is one project with a lot of complications because of the 2 cities' involvement. These added problems were caused by this developer, and he should be obligated to fix them, including providing buffers for the borders of the Palmetto piece that impact us, the Chat Hills residents. Please keep in mind the Palmetto piece has no South Fulton Parkway access except through Chattahoochee Hills. So its development is dependent on this rezoning request. The staff's list of 22 conditions are well thought out, And they recognize these problems between the two pieces. And they recommend a requirement that Chat Hills retain approval rights over portions of the Palmetto piece. For instance, condition number 11 requires Chat Hills retain approval rights on all development plans along Cochrane Mill Road, specifically including controlling addition of buffers on Cochrane Mill Road as it runs through and exclusively in the city of Palmetto. Do likewise for the rest of us and mandate buffers for the Palmetto piece that abuts Chat Hill residents. And if you will not, then you should deny this rezoning application. The Georgia Supreme Court has repeatedly affirmed a city's right to deny rezoning requests whenever it affects public welfare. The Supreme Court has specifically said public welfare includes aesthetics, environmental impact, injury to other property, and traffic. This rezoning request has all of these issues, and a denial is warranted. In conclusion, for today, I appreciate the deferral. I ask that you allow for further information, discussion, and analysis, and really consider whether this is the best thing, and if so, how, what conditions. And consider denial. You are authorized to do that. And I will say that I'm speaking just as a citizen and not in any other capacity. Thank you.
Next, Robert Richardson.
There's 4 minutes left. Okay.
That's all.
All right, so we'll go ahead and
Well,
close this.
I
public
believe Mr. Harris.
Oh, I'm
reserved
sorry, yeah,
time
Harrison,
for-
would you like to? Sorry, you do have some time left over.
7 minutes. 3 seconds.
I don't need minutes. I understand opposition. I've done many zonings, many master plan communities. I respect that. I do want to differentiate, though, this is not the same development as the 1,300 acres in Palmetto. We've owned that property for almost 20 years. We got it zoned 16 years ago. They're not the same. That's been zoned. The master engineering has been completed for part of that property. They are separate, but I understand opposition and I respect opposition. It is what it is. Thank you.
All right, that's it then, right?
That's all.
I'll go ahead and close that public hearing, and then let's go ahead and move on to the public hearing for 23-045. And if you don't mind, Rick, let's do that and 046 at the same time, since they're part of the same project, or no?
Yeah, I would agree with that, Mr. Mayor, because several folks have put both of those numbers on here.
Okay.
So I will call those in the order I received them. Brian Snodgrass.
Is he,
He's the applicant.
but Mike doesn't talk about it first, or he does?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't actually say let's open the hearing either, so we'll just wind all that back. And Mike, if you would give us a quick little update on this project. Sorry, Ryan.
If you want to hear just some of the basic facts. 265 acres proposed for rezoning from RL rural to HMMU mixed use hamlet and a special use permit for a hotel. We're taking them together correctly. Okay, yeah. The property is located between Cochrane Mill Road and Creel Road and the south of Cedar Grove Road. It's almost entirely wooded with some trails, small clearings cut in by a previous owner. Surrounding property is residential or vacant. And to the north across Cedar Grove Road is the Heatherwood Manor neighborhood, which is 60 houses on about 100 acres. City of South Fulton is across Cochrane Mill Road along a part of that frontage. There's also a portion of the city of South Fulton that is on the west side of Cochrane Mill Road, which is the same side that this development is on, and abuts the development directly. A couple of lots with single family homes directly abutting. All the adjacent Chat Hills property is zoned RL. Concept plan shows 71% of the property protected as open space and civic space, And it shows the required 150-foot buffers everywhere that the proposed hamlet borders the RL district. Again, it borders the city of South Fulton. In some locations, they have shown a 50-foot buffer there, where the city doesn't have an explicit requirement. First phase includes 20 single-family homes in the eastern corner of the property. Phase 2 adds more residential, and the first half of the hamlet's community core. Further phases round out the core and extend the single-family residential to the west side, to the west across the creek, and then to the north. Overall, they're proposing just over 600 residences, which means they will also be engaged with the TDR program, which will result in protecting rural land outside of the hamlet. The plan does a great job clustering the proposed development, preserving a large contiguous open area of open space in the western portion of the property, which would make a good model for other development in the city. The 70% preservation requirement would result in a minimum of 185.5 acres of open space and civic space in the district. They also propose maximizing the allowable purchase of TDRs, which would be another 265 development rights through the TDR program, resulting in on and offsite preservation of over 450 acres. When you compare that with the development footprint on site of 80 acres, it yields an effective preservation ratio of 85%. The plan includes an inn at the northern end of the third phase of the development in the hamlet. This use requires a special use permit for a hotel. And the inn, of course, is behind the district buffers as the rest of the hamlet is, and it's surrounded on 3 sides by open space. Again, Planning Commission deferred. We have completed the DRI process on this one. We have both ARC's final report and the Greta notice of decision. But there will be a public hearing at the Planning Commission meeting, again, repeating myself, this coming Thursday, a week from tonight, 6:30 p.m. in here.
Thanks, Mike. And now, I'd like to
And
open the
now,
public
drum
hearing.
roll, Ryan Snodgrass.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and City staff. It's great to see you all again. I'm here representing, excuse me, my name's Ryan Snodgrass, TSW 1447 Peachtree Street, Atlanta. So I'm here representing the applicant as the master planner for the property, the 265 acre site. I know we've given this presentation before in slightly different variations, but today I kind of want to stick with the high level and the main intents of what the applicant has with this property. And, you know, we've been working with them for many years and not only to find the perfect piece of property for this project and the vision and the design intent, but also once that property was found, was understanding really all of the natural elements of it and how to best site a plan on the property. And with that, it allowed us to maintain all of the required buffers, including environmental and zoning buffers. That equals around 156 acres, giving us a total of 188 acres of open space on site. I believe Mike just said 85% preservation is projected with this project once all of the factors are plugged into that Excel sheet. And so we're really excited about that. And knowing that we can cluster a development in this way, we with the phase 1 coming right off of Cochrane. I'm sure you all have seen this. But with our main phase coming right off of Cochrane Mill Road to a nice natural flat area on the site to limit the amount of grading and environmental impact. That was our goal, is to work with the land, not against it. Now, that's not to say there's not going to be grading happening on site, but we're doing our best to work with the environment. And so that is our phase 1, implementing around 20 houses, I believe is what's listed there. I don't have it in front of me directly, but about 20 houses. That's then followed by a little bit larger chunk to complete the core. That would come with a lot of public amenities such as the plaza space, a gravel road implementing that's allowed by the code. So we're really excited about that. And at both active and passive open spaces. And that's just all within the phase 1 of the site. And so that really packages the design intent for the full project that we see building out over the next 20-25 years over 4 phases as itemized in your packet there. The architecture and the style is intended to be I would say soft architecture, soft and not soft impact, but soft architecture, easy on the eye, something a little, intentionally rural to take a line from y'all's comp plan. And that's the intent with the architecture. Think soft woods and nothing overly ornate is the design intent with this. So we really look for a nice rural community that provides a varying architectural typologies from single family detached, attached townhouses, flats to create this true welcoming, intentionally rural development. So with that, I'm going to reserve the rest of the time for any rebuttal or questions. Thank you.
Next, Jeff Brock. And we have about 4 more people to speak. And just so you know, we got 6 minutes and 25 seconds. So speak like Mike Morton.
Good evening. My name's Jeff Brock. I live at 4950 Creel Road. My family has lived in the Cedar Grove community on the north end of what is now Chat Hills for the last 6 generations. We've seen a lot of change, and I grew up on Cedar Grove Road. My dad, my sister, and her family still live in the house that I grew up in. For the last 33 years, my wife and I have lived on Creel Road, and that's where we raised our family. And regardless of what's going to happen in the future, Chattahoochee Hills, Cedar Grove will always, forever be our home. Since 1980, I have managed and hunted on the 265 acres that we're talking about right now in this hearing. Nobody knows this property better than I do. I killed my first deer on this property many years ago. With all that said, I'm old enough to know that nothing stays the same forever. And development is coming. But I want responsible development. And I think that's very important. The residents of this community, Chat Hills, Cedar Grove, Rico, if you will, have been very fortunate that in my entire life and for many years before that, we've had a very rural lifestyle and been able to maintain that 20 minutes from the world's busiest airport. It's just unheard of. But once again, I repeat, it can't stay that way forever. And the responsibility lies right here with what kind of development we see going forward. I want you guys to know that I applaud the covenants, the rules, and the laws that are in place to control the development, the buffers, and all the other rules that are here. I think that's a great idea and fully support all of those. But I also wanted you to know that this project meets all those. You've already heard how much the buffers are, how much open space there'll be. And this project is well designed to meet all those requirements. In closing, I urge you to support the rezoning of this property because, as I have stated over and over, change is inevitable. Development's coming, and it is very important for it to be accomplished in a responsible way that preserves and protects as much of our country living as possible. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Next, Charles Hayes.
My name is Charles Hayes. I live at 120 Namora Court. I support the proposed application from Creative Land Company for a mixed-use hamlet located between Cochran Mill, Creel Road, and Cedar Grove Road. I support the proposed project because the developer has proposed to protect 70% of the 265 acres in accordance with the zoning requirements of Chattahoochee Hills. Also, the developer will implement Chat Hills buffering requirements at all entry points, ensuring that the protection of trees and the environment. Hence, most of the development will not even be visible. The developer has also reached out to the community, and by reaching out to the community, any concerns or issues that we have, they have been addressed. And based on conversations with the developer, I'm sure if there are any other concerns that need to be addressed, that she's willing to meet with the community at any time. Therefore, based on the above reasons, I support this project, and it is my desire that the city will also support this community. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Next, Deborah Burdette.
We've got 1:47.
In the interest of time, I'm Ellen Smith with Parker Poe, represent the applicant. Ms. Burdette wrote a letter to the city that was read into the record at the Planning Commission meeting. Clerk has a copy of it, and in the interest of time, I'll just say she's got a copy of it. She supports the application.
And if you would just send that to everybody, thanks.
And then next, Jonathan Cunningham.
Jonathan Cunningham, 7375 Caps Ferry Road. My wife and I moved our family here a little over a year ago, and we found our dream town for a few reasons. One, we love the natural beauty that we all love here in Chattahoochee Hills, and we were sick of the sprawl that had come from all the overdevelopment in the other towns that we had lived in. We know that stopping development isn't entirely possible, so it was important to find a place that had zoning ordinances that would find the right kind of development, responsible development. When we researched Chattahoochee Hills and we saw the zoning ordinances that you had in place, it was inspired. We had elected officials who found ways to protect the feeling that makes Chattahoochee Hills special. When I saw the Creative Land Code development, I knew this was the right kind of development for our town. It abides by all the rules that we have in place, that doesn't ask for any variances. And as was previously mentioned, Lauren Gervich is taking the time to get to know the citizens of Chattahoochee Hills and talking to them personally about her development. I know the quality of Lauren's work, and because of that, I know this will be a beautiful extension of our community.
30 seconds.
I'll be proud of. Thank you.
Now the last one.
All right, that's the last one altogether. Great. We'll close the public hearing. And thank you, everybody, for your input. It's always appreciated. Again, we'll hear from the Planning Commission after their next meeting, and we'll talk about this again in our next meeting. Next up is 23-030, moving on to unfinished business, which is an ordinance amending the charter. Basically, this is a change that, well, no, it's a change that clarifies a couple of places in the charter that aren't really consistent, relating to how people can be appointed to the commissions of the city. And basically what we're doing here is clarifying that point, saying that you must be a resident of the city to be appointed to a commission. That has not been clear, and we've appointed people that are not. And I think that's all the explanation we need. Let me go ahead and get a motion in a second to adopt 23-030.
I make a motion, we adopt 23-030.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on that? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That carries unanimously. Next up is a new business item, which is 23-055, which is an ordinance to amend the zoning map to rezone 210 acres from RL to Hamlet off of Campbellton Red Wine Road. Mike, you want to talk to us about that one, please?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request to rezone 210, a little under 211 acres from RL to mixed-use hamlet. The property is located between Campbellton Red Wine Road and Caps Ferry Road. Main entrances on, or really essentially all the entrances on Campbellton Red Wine Road, just a little south of the Parkway. There are frontages on both Campbellton Red Wine and on Caps Ferry. Notably, there is a 10-acre parcel inset into the project that contains a single-family home, is not part of the project, that's located along Caps Ferry. There is one entrance shown on Caps Ferry, the southern part of the Caps Ferry frontage, but that is proposed by the developer and proposed to be conditioned by the city as emergency use and pedestrian, bike, equestrian use only, not vehicular use, which would mean that the hamlet would not have regular vehicles going in and out on the gravel roads, only on the paved road. And I'll also point out that paved road is a GDOT road, so their approval, their design requirements will be in place for how those entrances work. There's a cemetery located right off of Campbellton Red Wine Road, just to the north of the property line. Actually, the cemetery extends just barely onto the property. That part of the development is is proposed to be in buffer though, so it wouldn't be affected by any of the building. Property plan shows 71% of the property protected as open space and civic space as required, 150 feet buffers around the entire periphery as required. The proposal is for 210 residential units along with 8,450 square feet of retail, restaurant, commercial space, a pair of amenities buildings and a barn, some stables, and an outdoor riding arena. All of these assets, not all the residential units, but the rest of it is all clustered near the two proposed entrances on Campbellton Red Wine, and then along with some townhomes, some attached housing, and then the bulk of the house or the rest of the housing, estate lots and cottage lots, extend back into the bulk of the property. The plan also includes trails throughout. This is just a first read, of course. There will be public hearings at the Planning Commission meeting a week from tonight, if you didn't know, at 6:30. And also, of course, next month at City Council.
Mike, I forgot to ask you something at the work session, talking about the cemetery that's partially on that property. It's referred to as a Macedonia Church Cemetery. And I copied you on a message from the Walker family that's recently been, it was their family cemetery. My question is, will the applicant be required to do an official cemetery survey? Because many of those were, it's early cemetery, so some were not well marked, some were marked with stones. They may need more technical assessments like ground radar, that kind of thing. Is the applicant's responsibility to do that?
So there's no development proposed within the area where the cemetery is. We haven't worked up conditions yet. It's something we can certainly talk to the applicant about. I don't know how they respond, but it's something that we can consider and explore. We will have a set of recommended conditions for the Planning Commission coming up next week, and of course you'll see some and have an opportunity, as you always do, to change or add to any conditions that are on there. But I would like to start with a conversation with the applicant. We can see if they have any immediate response.
On the spot.
Congratulations.
Yes, I would have no problem getting some kind of study done. Obviously, it's important not to disrupt that sort of thing. So that would be in our interest to as well. So yes, that's fine.
And part two of that question is, of course, so that family is attempting to work through a deal with the other property owner that has the main part of the cemetery that adjoins your property so that they can have access to maintain it. So there's an easement on that other property. I'm not sure there's an easement on your property. So maybe just consider that, and I can forward you the family contact information so you can have direct contact with them.
Sure.
Okay.
No problem.
Anybody else? I just want to make two quick comments. Again, one is a process comment. This is a first read. When we get an application, we always do a first read to kind of get it in the system. And then from here, depending on what we have questions about, we kind of proceed apace depending on what we need to resolve and get more information on. The other point I want to make is just one about our zoning. Again, this is one of those places where the fact that our zoning is unusual sometimes surprises people. And I want to commend the developer here for being very quick to respond. There was some concern right away about the fact that they had a couple of entrances in a very preliminary plan onto the gravel road. And as you know, our gravel roads are kind of forever protected in our zoning. We don't really allow intense development to happen on them. And as soon as we pointed that out, they very quickly changed the plan. And we have this plan now where we do have the possibility of fire truck access, which is very important to be able to get, you know, if a road is blocked because of an accident or something, to be able to get in and provide public safety from a separate entrance. But that'll be a bollarded entrance, so cars won't be coming in and out. There won't be traffic going onto the gravel roads. So again, thank you for being responsive to that. And this is how our zoning works. So it's just a good illustration, I guess, of how that happens.
Question for Mike.
And yeah, sure. No action today, though. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, on these permits, are there any timelines for these people to build? We just heard Mr. Merrill said he's got one for 16 years. And the reason I asked that is I know there've been a lot of projects approved, not seeing a lot of work done.
Right.
And I see that wall full.
Right.
And I think if somebody needs a permit, they need to be ready to do some work,
Right.
or they don't need to even be up here getting them.
The zoning doesn't expire. It takes an action by the city council to change the zoning. You can't
I'm
even
talking
build
about
it.
when you issue a permit to somebody
Right.
to do their
So,
development. Should we be allowing them to sit on that thing for 10 years before they use it? Because in my opinion, I don't know.
Right.
I mean, nothing lasts 10 years.
Right. Building permits expire.
When? How long?
I want to say 6 months. But if you are active, if you schedule an inspection on your building permit, the clock starts again. So you get another 6 months before it would expire if you don't schedule another inspection. So as long as it stays active, it doesn't expire.
But that's a big concern I hear from a lot of people. You know, there's been a lot of stuff that has passed. You just don't see a lot of that going on. And the other thing is too, something I brought up before, you know, with all this development, and we hear about all these numbers of land people are going to preserve, you know, 70%, 85%. What's wrong with putting 50% of it in preservation up front? Because the history of this town, we have to fight developers to put land in preservation. And what they generally do is they annex in more land and they keep moving the goalposts. So what can you tell me as a citizen, not a council person, somebody who lives here? Because, you know, you can have a development within 500 feet of every development around the town. That's what I hear from people. That's what they're nervous about, you know, this thing. So, I think that's maybe the discussion for council, but I don't see why we can't tell a developer, you know, you put 50% of your land up front, preserve it up, show some real preservation. I don't see any real preservation other than the citizens that own their property. I hear about it. But to this day, unless something's changed, I think there's only 113 acres in preservation. That's right, right?
Yeah.
We've been in the city how long?
Right,
Okay,
wow,
so.
Well, and again, you know,
I know
there's.
rocks can be moved. I know they have machines that look underground. You know, if you hit oil, guess what? We're gonna put a house there. But I think that would take a big edge off of myself as a citizen and people that are looking to live here, maybe another 40 years and retire here, if they knew that preservation was taking place. And I haven't seen a better way to do it than part of it up front. I mean, if your goal is 70, I don't know why you can't put 40 in up front.
I mean, it's an ongoing
It's-
conversation, no question.
Absolutely an item for discussion. There are some standards in the UDC. And as you say, a lot of those things that have been entitled haven't actually acted yet. And so they get to get started before the first set is required. But as absolutely a good topic for discussion.
It is all also memorialized in the zoning, right? So the conservation easement is the suspenders on top of the belt of the zoning. The zoning already says that you're protecting 70%. You can't change that. It's when it goes under conservation that it's like the belt and suspenders. And we all agree. We've had that conversation many times. All right. Again, that was just a first read. So moving on to the next item is 23-056, which is historical marker content that the Historic Commission's been working on, and they will present that to us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Lyle Ryan and myself will be presenting on behalf of the Historic Commission tonight.
And who are you again?
Brian Rhodes.
And I'm Lila Wright.
I figured that must be the other one.
Like to, Mayor and Council, I'd like to thank you all for your support last month and actually several months in planning and getting our Cocker Mill sign up, and it's beautiful and we get plenty of compliments, and I can't thank you all enough on behalf of the Historic Commission for supporting that. It's been a long project, but it's here and we've got some momentum and we've got more. And I'd also like to thank Daryl and his department for getting the sign erected. It looks great. And we had the beautiful unveiling ceremony and well attended. So I do appreciate everyone that helped us with that.
Tonight, we're presenting to you the second sign. We went through the content. Thank you. At the work session, we went through there was no questions. Are there any additional questions since then that we can answer?
I don't think so. I think everybody was quite pleased with what they saw.
Yeah.
Love it.
That looked great.
What's our recommendation to request your approval?
I said this at the work session. I was one of those kids whose dad would pull over every time he saw one of those signs, go screeching across 6 lanes of traffic to come up in a dust cloud to look at those historic marker signs. And I love the fact that we now have our own in Chattahoochee Hills, and they're exactly the kind I remember. And you guys, to your point, have worked long and hard to make this happen. It was such an exciting thing to open the first one up. And I love the fact that we're following up quickly with another one. There's so much amazing history in this city. And you guys have been capturing that, and we're starting to display it, and it's just fantastic.
So question, once it gets approved tonight, what's the time? Will it be installed before the end of the year? Christmas present, maybe?
It's possible the Cochran Mill sign came back quicker than they had originally told us. It is possible.
Okay.
I don't know, it's 6 weeks.
That's kind of tight.
That's probably pretty tight,
Yeah.
so probably right after the first of the year.
All right, unless anybody has anything else, can I get a motion in a second, please, to adopt 23-056, which is the approval of the Beavers Lee Fountain House historic marker?
Make a motion to approve 23-056.
Second, and we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting 23-056, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That carries unanimously. Again, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing that one and celebrating it as well.
Thank you. We'll be back next month, hopefully with another.
Great. Next up is 23-057, which is a resolution appointing members to the Board of Directors of the Chat Hills DMO, Destination Marketing Organization, which is a technicality that we have to take care of. Robbie, you want to talk about that?
I'm glad you defined what a DMO was for me. Yeah, Designated Marketing Organization, with the operative word being marketing. And it's nice that I get to follow the historic marker that Lila and Brian were talking about, because those are the kind of things that we use tourism dollars for. And that's what the DMO is. It was created, it's going to be a nonprofit organization, and it was created with the help of our city attorney to move it forward as part and parcel of our Convention and Visitors Bureau. And this DMO is going to be designed to help, 1.5%. 1.5% of the 8% that we're going to be getting. We're right now 7 is going to go to 8% hotel motel tax, will help more marketing in the city. And so DMO requires 3 directors. One is appointed by the CVB, which has been done. Garney Nygren has been appointed one of those directors. The other 2 directors, one has to be appointed by the mayor and council, and it can be whomever. And we talked about in a work session, it could be the city manager or his or her designee. And then the third, I just bring this up too, the third comes from the members. And the members are those that decide, and for people in this room, if you own a business or something that's related to tourism, even a short-term rental, you can be a member of the Designated Marketing Organization. It's $50 a year, it's an annual membership. And, there's not a lot of meetings or anything like that. It's kind of like a chamber of commerce where you're a member, but you have a word, you have a say, and you get to that, those members get to appoint that third director. And then once that's in place, we have a DMO. And that's kind of the 30,000 foot level.
And again, this is a requirement of the law around the Convention and Visitor Bureau and spending that extra percent. So I think, as we discussed in the work session, the recommendation that we would make for 23-057 is that the member that we're appointing is the city manager or a designee. And if I could get a motion in a second, please, to adopt 23-057 with that language.
I make a motion, we adopt 23-057 with that language.
A second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion about it? If not, all those in favor of adopting 23-057 with that, either the city manager or designee, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That carries unanimously. Next up is 23-058, which is giving the old fire truck to the mayor, which is declaring the 1994 Peace Saver fire truck as surplus.
Yes.
And Chief Brett.
Yes, Mayor. Council, we're asking for your approval to surplus the 1994 Pierce Saber, an engine that is now, a fire engine that is now 29 years old. It's beyond its ability to serve based on NFPA code and has reached critical terms of repairs. Should we keep it? We really wouldn't keep it. So my request is to be able to surplus sell that for the benefit of the city.
Such a neat thing, because I remember how thrilled we were when we got that used piece of junk from Noonan, that we finally had another fire truck. And
You're
now we're
right.
able to
And
move beyond that.
It worked hard for us for a bit.
It's fantastic. Can I get a motion in a second to adopt 23-058, please?
Make a motion to adopt 23-058.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of adopting 23-058 and surplusing that truck, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Thank you.
That carries unanimously. Next up is mayor and council comments, and I'm trying to remember where I started last time. I think Ruby, I'm going to start on with you.
Okay, all right. Well, I want to say good evening to everyone and want to say thanks to the staff for a well done job. Always want to, Greg, thank you for your crew, and Dara, thank you as well for being out there, and to the police officers as well. We had some changes in the community outreach. We will be doing a tree lighting on December the 5th at 5:45 p.m. in the evening. We will not be doing the Christmas in Chat Hills, nor will we be doing the senior event this year. So I just want to say thanks.
Thank you. Ricky.
Yeah, guys, glad everybody came out tonight. Yeah, there's a lot going on. Need to stay paying attention to what's going on. Got a lot of development coming down the pipe. I encourage you to voice your opinion, talk to your council people. I guess this couple of these seats will change out. But that's just where we're at. Go Dogs. That's all I got for you.
Thanks, Lori.
Yeah, I wanted to thank the police and the staff and celebrate in those recognitions as well. I'd also like to call out a couple of veterans that we personally honored for our Veterans Day program. Don Crisp, I see you in the audience. Will Wright and Alex Boatrock. And I'd like to take this moment to ask if there are other veterans in the room, if you would please stand. Thank you for your service. That's all I have.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm extremely encouraged seeing community involvement at this level. And everybody is taking a hand and being involved in what's going on, paying attention to what's going on. It's encouraging seeing that going on. I do want to take my opportunity here to say thank you to all the people that supported me in my campaign, even though we came up short. It's still a process, and I think that there is a lot still going on. We can still keep people accountable, and that doesn't mean I'm going to go away or fade away into the night just because I'm not seated up here. I'm still going to be involved at whatever level I can be, and I just want to say thank you and a shout out to all those people there, especially the community coming together. I see faces here I haven't seen in quite a while. Please stay involved. Please stay engaged. And I want to say thank you to it's encouraging seeing the police department fully staffed and operating the way they are. seeing a lot more cars out there. And I do want to put this in, my mom's out there, you know, so I have to say this, Kevin, if y'all can slow people down on that curve. Coming down, I don't want to come up here and say, hey, look, she was hit coming down through there. But the Hutchinson Ferry is a freeway sometimes. So, but thank you for what y'all are trying to do. It's tough. The city's growing rapidly. I'm sure traffic patterns are changing daily. People finding new routes, and I'm seeing people driving, you know, in different areas early in the morning. So, but stay engaged. Keep people accountable. So, thank you.
I want to say thank you too, both to the crowd that's here tonight and also to everybody who got involved over the course of the last couple months. We had high voting turnout. And again, the idea of people participating in the process is really important generally. And again, it's always good to have a good group of people here because then you're hearing it firsthand. And I think it's incredibly important to hear these kind of things firsthand. We've got amazing zoning that's going to protect most of the city in a way that nobody else has been able to do. And getting involved thoughtfully in that process is important. I also want to say congratulations to the people that won in the election and also condolences to the people that did not. I've been on both sides of that equation. I know how hard it is to lose, how hard you work, and then you lose and you're working for something that you really feel importantly about, that you feel strongly about. And again, to the people that have won, congratulations. Looking forward to working with new people and moving this ball on. And again, hoping that the people that have been involved stay involved. As someone who both my stepfather and my dad were veterans and all of my grandfathers were veterans, again, I'm glad that Lori called the people out in the room. Thank you to you guys for your service. And remember that on Saturday as well. Find the veterans that you know and thank them for their service. Just an offer again, you know, because of the level of engagement, and particularly the route that a lot of us are getting our information. If you have questions about things, it's hard sometimes to get information from a comment or a piece of paper or whatever. If you want context, please reach out and try to get that context so that we can get kind of a full response to people's questions up where we can. Remember that it's not easy to keep track of everything that happens on Facebook. You know, you try to keep track and kind of respond, but you know how that feed works. Like some things you just don't ever see. And sometimes I get notes from people saying, well, you never responded to that thing. And I'm like, I never saw that thing. So again, you know, please feel free to reach out directly and try to, again, I'm always happy to help. And there are other people in the room too that are happy to help. And if I don't know the answer to something, I'll find you the person that can. And thanks for coming out. Can I get a motion and a second, please, to adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned at 7:33 p.m. We always end the evening with the town hall session. It's a time to ask kind of general questions that you might have. We have staff, elected officials here to answer them. If you've got something that you want to ask about, particularly you got some issue with your property or whatever, the right people to talk to are in the room, just grab them. We don't have to do that in front of everybody, but we're here for you if you need anything. And if not, have a great evening, great weekend. We're close to the weekend. We'll see you next time. Thank you.